I'm Muhammed Muheisen, and I would love to share with you my unbelievable journey. I'm a Jordanian national who was born and raised in Jerusalem. Being a kid in that part of the world in the late 80s, they didn't leave me much options to act as a kid. The news was everything surrounding me. It was the morning talk, the evening talk. It's all about what's happening in the region. The news was everything in my life. That changed the moment that I met my grandmother's Polaroid. I discovered my true friend and passion, photography. This magical box that when you press a button, piece of paper comes out documenting that exact moment, that we get to carry it with us our whole life. I was obsessed with trees and nature. Everything had its own beauty. I used to see colors, and I dreamt someday I would be able to share these colors with the world and color their world. The environment played a major role in my life. I graduated with a BA degree in journalism and political science. I combined my education with my passion to be a better storyteller, hoping someday I will be able to make a difference. In 2001, I joined the AP to cover the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Shortly after, I became an international photographer covering the region. I traveled to several countries that shared the conflict in common. In 2003, I was there during the US-led war in Iraq. I was young, inexperienced, and terrified. I was there to show the war, the destruction, and the human misery. I thought being born in a conflict, I know it all. But being in Iraq, I realized that I know nothing. And war is the darkest place to be in the middle of. Iraq was the place that changed me. It changed my life personally and professionally. I never remained the same person after. The trauma of that war still haunts me. Every picture that I captured there could have cost me my life, literally. If time goes back, I keep asking myself this question: would I put myself out there? Yes, because it's so important to document what's happening. I believe if something happens and never been documented, it's like it's never occurred, and I wanted to share with the world what's happening around them. Up to date, that war haunts me. They say time is a healer, and I'm hoping to be healed one day. I traveled from country to another. I went to Yemen, where I was stabbed. I went to Afghanistan, where I lost my best friend. I went to Syria, where my heart was broken. And I went to Egypt, where once I fell in love with the place. And in the middle of my journey, I realized if the news is right in front of me and I just turn around, I will witness a total different scene. A scene full of life instead of death. It's like a smile in the middle of the rubble, and this is the theme that I've been working on for the last decade. Whenever there was a funeral in my right, there was a baby just being born in my left, and this is where I focused with my work. I started focusing on children because I personally believe that children are the real victims of conflict. Children don't get to choose where to be born or the circumstances surrounding them. Children all over the world seek the same things in common. They seek fun, they seek joy, and they seek happiness. With my work, I wanted to spread more awareness. I wanted to change stereotypes, and I wanted to raise the voice of the people that I photograph. It's not just a picture. It's a message from a child or an adult from that part of the world to the other part of the world. As we know, the people that we photograph, they have names, they have ages, they have hopes, they have dreams, and I always do my best to share this message with the world and hope one day that I will be able to make a difference. Big or small, at least we need to start somewhere. I never forget the names of the children that I photograph. They are part of my life as I am part of theirs. I became famous by their photographs. I've seen many of these children growing in front of my eyes, and it was time for me to introduce them to the world. One of these children is Laiba Hazrat. Laiba is a 6-year-old Afghan refugee girl who lives with her family in a mud home on the outskirts of Islamabad, Pakistan. I've seen Laiba for the first time in 2010. She was that little girl with the most beautiful face. When I portrayed Laiba in 2014, her picture went to the world, it went out. I started receiving numerous of emails and messages from people who wanted to help her. I received packages and gifts, and I was so happy to carry it and give it to her. So my picture connected two worlds, and the photographer became the bridge and the messenger. And this is why I'm a photographer. Another story of Zahra Mahmoud. I met Zahra for the first time in 2015 when she was 4 years old. It was shortly after she and her family fled the war in Syria and took shelter in Jordan. She was very quiet, very sad. You can see the scars of war all over her face. I badly wanted to share her story with the world. After seeking permission from her father, Zahra's portrait was published in every major media platform out there. She became the face of that conflict. Her picture was awarded UNICEF Picture of that year. Unfortunately, nothing changed in her life. I made it my mission to keep Zahra's stories going. Whenever there is an occasion, I keep talking about Zahra. There is a hope out there, and we should never stop believing. In December 2012, during a rain in a mountain in a Syrian village, I met a 10-year-old young boy. This boy was injured in an airstrike that hit his family's home. He was burned fully, wrapped in bandages, and the only thing you can see in Abdullah is just his sad eyes. I approached his father and I told him, "Can I photograph your son?" Ahmad answered me in a very broken, sad, angry voice. "Why now? What this picture is gonna do to my son? Where are the media?" I told Ahmad, "My picture might do nothing for your son, but there is one thing that I can promise you, that the whole world will learn about Abdullah, will know what happened to him, what happened to your family, and what happened to the people surrounding you. If something happened and never been documented, it's never occurred." Ahmad looked me in the eyes, he offered me tea, and he said, "Do whatever you want." Few months later, I learned that Abdullah's picture won me my second Pulitzer Prize. Wow. And many people knew about Abdullah, many people heard about his story. I don't know much about Abdullah and about his father and his family. And up to date, I wonder if Abdullah's safe, if Abdullah's happy, if he's in college, if he ever knew that his picture became popular. I hope one day I'll find out. Hope is all what we've got. In 2015, I stood with my camera on the shores of the Greek island of Lesbos to document the refugee crisis in Europe, where thousands and thousands of people fled war, poverty, discrimination, in search for a new safe place. That year was the year that I decided to do something, not just being the messenger or the guy who brings simple kindness, but also commit all of me to the cause of helping those who need help simply through my passion, photography. I have seen people who look just like me. I've heard languages that I'm familiar with. I've seen myself, my family, my friend, any of us making this dangerous journey on a dinghy just to look for a safe place. And this is when I created Everyday Refugees Foundation, where through photography, we aim to document, help, educate, and empower refugees and internally displaced people by poverty, discrimination, conflicts, and natural disasters in different parts of the world. Technology made it possible, and I personally believe there is nothing impossible if we work hard, if we believe in ourselves, and if we follow our hearts. In seconds, we can deliver a message from this part of the world to the other part of the world. We can share from the scene to the doorsteps of the people what's happening around them. And I made it my mission to make sure that people knows many of the stories that I capture. It is like a train that passes us so fast, and we have to be side by side with it. Now in 2019, the foundation managed to help thousands of people in different parts of the world, simply through passion photography. Also, being a world-renowned photographer and a two-time Pulitzer Prize-winner gave me global credibility. It made it easier for me to reach decision makers, to reach people who can make a real difference, as the voice of my photographs became louder and the reach became wider. In 2017, I became a National Geographic photographer. And my first assignment was in Serbia to document the unaccompanied refugee minors stranded in the country. It was a very sad story to tell, where hundreds of refugees took shelter in abandoned warehouses behind Belgrade's central station. The conditions were so harsh. It was freezing, minus 20 degrees. People slept on the ground, showered in cold water, wrapped themselves in blankets, warmed themselves around fires, inhaling the toxic smoke. I had to do something about it. And it kept me, I had many questions in my head. Why would an 8-year-old kid walk all the way from Afghanistan to Europe? Why would a 12-year-old boy shelter himself in a jungle between the Serbian and Croatian border? So many questions. I needed to answer them, as nobody leaves their home unless they are forced to leave their home. When the story was published a few months after, I came back to Serbia twice, but this time with a team of Everyday Refugees Foundation. We came to deliver help. We delivered warm clothes, we delivered proper footwear, and also I was so curious to check on the children that I met earlier in that year. As behind the word refugees, there are people. These people had memories and families and hope and dreams, and we should never forget that. For me, the story begins every time I go back. So whenever every media platform leaves, I go back to keep the story going. It's the story of the people. We should never forget that. Last year in October, I had an exhibition at the Cycladic Art Museum in Athens, Greece. Light on the Move, it was a selection of images that spans over a decade of documenting refugees and internally displaced people. The important for me about such events, exhibitions, and talks, that I get to share the stories of the people that I photograph with my audience. This way, we spread more awareness. And that year, I photographed a young girl who fled with her family on a dinghy to Greece. I photographed her in a camp, and her picture was among the pictures displayed at the museum. It was so important for me to locate Manar and invite her to the exhibition. Manar, her twin sister, and their father were my guests. You should have seen that priceless moment when this beautiful girl have seen her picture. She was so proud, so emotional, and so empowered. She told me in Arabic, I'm so proud to have my picture between these pictures. I'm so proud to have my picture presenting the Syrian children. Manar now, she lives in a home, she goes to school in Greece, and I hope one day she will be whatever she dreams to be. Dreams can come true. I never took, and I will never take anything for granted. I never stopped dreaming. Every achievement that comes my way is just the beginning. It takes a lot to build, and it takes seconds to destroy. But one thing that I learned from my journey, that everything is possible. I'm Muhammed Muheisen. I'm a 2-time Pulitzer Prize-winner. I'm a National Geographic Photographer. I'm the Global Ambassador for Jordan Tourism Board, Royal Jordanian Airlines and Canon, and I'm proudly the chairman and the founder for Everyday Refugees Foundation. I never imagined one day that I will be where I am today, but I always dreamed to help. And as you all can see, dreams can come true. Thank you.